Ow! Welcome,
Hello.
welcome everybody. How are you? To start out today, I'm going to pass it off to Morgan, our founder, to give you guys a little bit of just background on the origins of Geoship and the vision behind what we're doing here.
Thanks, Misha. Yeah, everybody. I'm really excited to be able to speak to you through this um computer. I think Geoship, you're really about to hear one of the most exciting technologies of the 21st century, ones that will really kind of define or redefine our built environment and create the opportunity for people to live closer to nature, closer to community, um, and really in harmony with kind of the natural world. So, you know, my co-founder, Boss Cools, and I have been working on Geoship for about 7 years now, doing really the kind of deep R&D on the project. And what drove us from the beginning is that the technology, the bioceramic geodesic dome, is really a tool to build regenerative communities. So I think, like a lot of you, we've been dreaming of living in community closer to nature, in homes that are really like not just healthy and natural, but biologically resonant. Like, what are the homes of the future that humans will really inhabit? And that was kind of the beginning of how we started thinking about this, the product, which is really optimizing from physics first principles. So, what is the most efficient combination of just materials, geometry, and method of manufacturing? And I think we know kind of mathematically the bioceramic geodesic dome is it. And it happens to be, the flower of life, this ancient geometry in a 3D form. And the materials are literally the same chemical composition as human bone. So the whole frame, exterior, interior are all these bioceramic composites. So it's very exciting technology from just affordability, sustainability, climate resilience, and health, and just really being able to kind of live into the future. And we've organized GeoShip as kind of think of it as three legs of the stool, the product, the village building platform. So actually being able to bring communities together in a digital space to kind of align on what their vision is, so that neighborhoods of the future are really uh, cultural and aesthetic legacies, and at the same time a multi-stakeholder cooperative. So really bringing like nature and customers into co-ownership with the traditional stakeholders of investors and employees, and setting up a perpetual purpose-driven trust to essentially continue Buckminster Fuller's mission to make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without ecological offense or the disadvantage of anyone. Over the last year here, we've brought on just an amazing team, some top level engineers from Tesla and Apple, who are really coming together to engineer the home as a fully integrated product. So I'll just pass it off to Misha here to really take you through the details of the technology and business plan.
Hmm. Thank you, Morgan. So first off, really appreciate all of you being here. Just for some context, we've done a few of these webinars, and this one is designed for someone who's new to GeoShip. So it's designed for someone who's learning about a lot of these things for the first time. If you've been on this type of introductory webinar before, or you've seen, there will be a lot of repetitive information here, but you're welcome to stick around and ask some Q&A later. And we're really excited because we're getting towards the end of our crowdfunding campaign. We have opened this up publicly 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, and it has just been an incredible response. It's been an absolute whirlwind. We've had so many people step up and invest, and we want to make sure that we give access to this investment to as many people as possible. To start out, since you're new here, I'll tell a little bit more about myself and how I got here. So my name is Misha. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. Started my first company as a teenager. I've started 8 companies, and I've also joined a few along the way, like Geoship, where I wasn't the founder. And I've had a really exciting time, like scaling businesses. I've learned a lot. I've scaled a couple businesses to close to $100 million in revenue and a few hundred employees. Um, and along that journey, I had an awakening experience. Like I had an experience where I started working with a coach. I did some personal development, and I really realized I was doing things out of a real place of pain. Like I was trying to prove myself to the world and trying to make money as a way of really just showing that I'm worth something. And when I came to that realization, I started questioning everything, and I actually decided to sell the company I was running. It wasn't really aligned with my values anymore, and I just started seeking for like how can I make the biggest difference on this planet for all of humanity, for our children, for our grandchildren, for future generations, and just really got drawn to understanding what's happening in the world and how we can create technologies that make a scalable difference for a lot of people. Fast forward a few years, I had sold another business, and I had bought a 100-acre property close by where the Geoship headquarters are, and I didn't know Geoship at the time, and um, this property had 8 homes in it, and I bought it with the vision of creating a regenerative community to raise my kids with some other families. So we have 7 kids on the land. My wife runs a co-op homeschool on the land. We grow some of our own food. We're doing some permaculture there. It's just like a real beautiful paradise of an experience. And when COVID happened, a bunch of our friends showed up, and they really wanted to be a part of what we're doing. They wanted to spend time with us. They didn't want to be trapped in their apartments in the city. And we had an amazing time during COVID, like restoring parts of the property and working on the land. And it was about that time that I started really looking at the real estate industry of like, what kind of homes can I add to this land to have more people be here that are going to be healthy, that are going to be good for the planet. And I came across Geoship, and that was really the start of this journey. And I had pre-ordered some Geoships. I had hung out. I spent some time with Morgan and Boss. They asked me to become an advisor. I started advising the company. And within like the 6 months or so after that, they asked me to come help them run the company. So it was for me, it was a choiceless choice. It was like, wow, I'm in a very like privileged position to be able to provide this life for my family and my kids. And this technology will give access to this type of lifestyle to millions and millions of people at a very affordable cost. And it was just something I couldn't say no to. It was too big of an opportunity to create global impact that can really drive some meaningful change. So that's what brought me here, and why I'm so passionate about what we're doing. Um, if you don't follow the home construction industry, you probably still know it's completely broken. Compared to 50 years ago, it takes twice as long to build a home. It costs 4 times as much, and these homes don't look that much different. So when Geoship looks at this industry, we've created a theory for change. And our theory for change is that all 5 of these critical problems have to be radically addressed to create meaningful and transformational change in this industry. So the first problem is sustainability. 27% of global carbon emissions comes from housing. This is more than transportation, which is wild because everyone talks about the impact of transportation on climate change and carbon, but not as much of housing. Resiliency is the next problem. And we're seeing deca-billion-dollar disaster events that are affecting our friends and our communities. And we just saw what happened in North Carolina. We just saw what happened in Hawaii. What doesn't get talked about on the news, at least in the US a lot, is a dozen events that happen around the world in between those 2 events. It's pretty much every month, like sometimes multiple times a month, that we have some kind of $10 billion climate event. And it's destroying our housing stock. We have an affordability crisis with housing, and this is probably the biggest issue that everyone's really aware of. And right now in the US, 70% of people under 35 can no longer afford a home. In California, that number is closer to 90%. So huge affordability crisis. People have given up hope on the dream of home ownership. We have a hidden health epidemic at home. We're seeing every year the rise of chronic disease. It's going up and up and up and up. And that's contributed by multiple places, but one place where we spend a lot of time is the home. And there's over 800 toxic chemicals found in common construction materials. Some of our investors are home builders that have built hundreds of homes, and the most recent homes they built, they got so sick of like the gases and the off-gassing and all the toxic chemicals that they just couldn't keep doing their job. They decided, I can't keep doing this career. And then when they found Geoship, they saw that, wow, these guys are doing something different. It's just getting worse and worse. On top of that, almost half of homes in the US will test positive for toxic mold that people are exposed to every single day as they spend time in their homes. And then the last issue is a huge business issue. Why are we short millions and millions of homes in this country? It's because we have an extreme shortage in housing and construction workers across the US. So we don't have a way to scalably build real estate in the US. And the average age of construction workers just goes up every decade. So because of these problems, there's been an emergence of new types of companies. We call this home building 2.0, the rise of factory-built housing. And there's three categories of players in this space. There's 3D printed companies, which originally I thought was really cool, but they actually end up using a lot of material. So it's not very material efficient, and you got to move these giant printers to different job sites. Then there's modular companies, which sounds cool, like let's build a bunch of houses on an assembly line, but you need a lot of factory space to do that. And then you also need to ship these houses on these like giant oversized trucks that need all kinds of special permits to navigate. So it's a lot of work. And most recently, there's been an innovation in panelized home construction. And this is where all the components are made in a factory, and then the homes are rapidly assembled on site. Now, we're not the first company in this space, but we're one of the early people in this space. And there's other companies out there that have got lots of investments and had, made a lot of traction, but we're actually able to do things at a far, far lower cost than what they're doing. So we'll get more to that later. So you think about our theory for change, and you think about this whole new industry that's been born. And then you look at all the players, like there's over 30, 40 companies in the space, but these are just a few of the biggest ones in these different segments. And we've looked at all of them, and not a single one we can find can address more than two of these problems. So they're all making trade-offs. They're maybe building faster, cheaper homes that are getting less healthy and less sustainable. And that's basically like slamming on the gas while you're heading towards a cliff. It's not really solving all the problems that we're facing. So our technology actually radically addresses all five of these issues, but it does so at a lower cost than anyone else is able to deliver in this industry. So this led us to think of like, wow, like how much of an impact can we have on the world if we can create a home that's 5 times better than any home that exists on the planet, but it costs half as much? Like that would create transformational change. And that's why our Earth shot as a company, it's to make the best home on Earth the most affordable home on Earth. So what is this home? It is a modern natural home. It's filled with natural light. It's got high ceilings, 26-foot ceilings, 9-foot tall windows, open floor plans, a real custom high-end feel. I mean, this is like the things that homeowners are looking for in a home. Like it has all of those things. It is a home that's radically sustainable. Based on third-party LCA's life cycle carbon assessments we've conducted, we've shown that our homes are going to reduce carbon emissions by 85%. That's the embodied carbon of the home and the operational and recurrent carbon. And a lot of other home builds, they make trade-offs where they have a lot more embodied carbon up front to lower the ongoing carbon impact. But we actually have our cake and eat it too, and we reduce it on both fronts, which is incredible. So it's an incredibly energy efficient home. Imagine if we can heat and cool 5 homes for the same amount of electricity that it currently takes to heat and cool 1 home. That's radical. It's a climate resilient home. Our ceramic composites that Morgan started introducing and talking about, they don't burn, they don't rot, and they don't corrode. So if this home was submerged in water in a flood, it would simply dry out. You wouldn't have to tear the whole home down and rebuild it. Also, the geodesic shape not only provides a lot of cost savings for us, but it's the most hurricane and earthquake resilient structure you could possibly build. This structure could stand in the way of Category 5 hurricanes and tornadoes, and it would survive. It would do great. And it's because it's aerodynamic and the triangulated sphere, it perfectly distributes stress throughout the structure. And Buckminster Fuller knew this, and he knew it. It wasn't the technology wasn't there yet to scale it. It's next level healthy. So our structure is made of 100% non-toxic and mold-proof materials. The bioceramics are natural antibacterial, and they're compatible with the human body. Imagine living in a home where the home is actually made of the same ingredients that exist inside your body. Like energetically, that feels amazing to be in a home like this. And this home is radically affordable. So imagine having all this value and all this beauty at less than half the cost of a conventional build with much higher margins than our competitors are making. So it's like, okay, we can sell this home for a lot less. It's a much better home, and we can make more money doing so and scale faster and impact more people. Sounds good to me, and sign me up. I mean, like, if you're like me, you probably are thinking this feels too good to be true. And that's what I felt when I found this. And we'll get into the why and the actual innovations here that make this possible. And then the last thing is the scalability. We are able to build these homes with zero waste out of a single material and rapidly install them on site. The home goes together like Lego. Our material replaces like the frame, the exterior siding, the drywall, the countertops. Like we're even going to be pouring floors with this material. There's so much we can do with this material. So now for the why. So there's first principles innovation happening here on multiple fronts. And when you combine the innovations that are contributing on these multiple fronts all together, you get a massive reduction in costs in building a home. So it starts with the geometry. People know the geodesic dome is the strongest light. It's the most efficient means of enclosing space known to man. It has half the surface area, which makes it much more energy efficient than a normal home, just through the shape. And the free-span structural shell has no cross beams. So when Buckminster Fuller came up with this breakthrough, he knew that this was ahead of his time. He said it was going to be 50 to 100 years before there was a breakthrough in material science that would allow this to scale. And that's where Geoship comes in. Chemically bonded ceramics are a new family of materials that were developed by U.S. national labs during an 11-year R&D product. And these materials perform significantly better than concrete on many fronts. So better compressive strength, better flexural strength, has an insane bond strength. So like concrete, 150 PSI bond strength versus 5,000 PSI. It basically means we can use this material like an epoxy to connect all the pieces of the home and turn it into a monolithic structure. And that resolved a lot of the problems that people typically have had with geodesic homes, like worrying about seams and roof tiles and how do we make this so it's a watertight home. Our material lends itself perfectly to what we're doing there. And it's also really great on the manufacturing side. We can demold this material in 15 to 45 minutes versus like 1 to 2 days on a concrete block. So it's a really, really incredible material. And then when we combine the innovation in the geometry with this innovation in the material, and then we look at installing a home as a product. So we're not doing construction on a site, we're doing installation. We're not cutting anything, we're not modifying anything. And what happens when you do that? When you do that, we don't have to pay very expensive electricians and plumbers and carpenters to build these homes. And they're in short supply anyway, so there's not enough of them to build the homes. We can actually hire people out of like a Walmart and give them a living wage and give them more fulfillment in their life that they're actually building up for a family to move into. And that we can have a team of 6 people install a 1,600 square foot home in under 4 weeks. And I think over the next few years, we might even get that down to half that time. So when you can do that, you can drive down the material costs radically. You can drive down the labor costs radically. And the geodesic format is just, it's more resilient. It's better for the world. It's better for the climate. And it's half the cost. If we built the same home, we could build the same home in a rectilinear format out of the same materials, but it would take twice as much material and up to 3 times as much labor to put that home together. So So the geodesic format, in our opinion, there is a lot of demand for this product. It's something new. It's like adding like vanilla to a chocolate world. And where you drive around right now, all you see is rectangles. I don't see boxes in nature. And I think people are going to feel amazing being in these homes. And this this form factor is going to grow more and more and more over the years once we get it to market. So what have we accomplished so far? I mean, when I joined the team, I was blown away what a small team of people were able to do with very little money. Morgan, Boss, Neil, they were doing extensive R&D on this material. They tested thousands of different samples, and they didn't just test samples and send them to a lab and pay a lot of money for a lab to like test those samples. They actually bought their own testing equipment. They created their own lab. They bought their own CNC machine for super cheap that was used, and they started like making different types of molds and experimenting with the manufacturing process. Like they do what great engineers and designers and entrepreneurs do. They got their hands dirty and they maximize their learning and they maximize their iteration cycles. And they did a ton of R&D. One of the early investors I had come look at the prototype when I first joined the team, when I told them we had only spent $1.5 million to date with all the R&D that we did, he was like, holy man, it looks like you've done over $10 million of R&D here. This is incredible. And that was the first thing that like just really excited me about this deal, was like, wow, these guys know how to do a lot with less. And today, since then, we've hired a world-class team, leaders from Tesla, from Apple, from SpaceX. We increased our sales pipeline. Back then it was $40 million. Now our sales pipeline is over $150 million. It just keeps going up every week. We've engineered our go-to-market product and cleared some key regulatory hurdles to bring this product to market. And we've done all this spending just around $5 million to date. So, for a company that's ready to enter a multi-trillion-dollar market, one of the biggest industries in the world, with a completely game-changing technology, has managed to do this spending less than $5 million of investor money, as of today, it's probably right around 5. And we're going to actually get this to market next year. We're going to deliver it to the first 10 customers, spending less than $10 million of investor money. And by that time, we're going to be selling enough homes where we could actually be profitable. And we will still want to raise more money because we'll want to grow faster so we can serve more people and have more impact. But the point is that this company isn't run like a lot of startups. It's run very lean, very responsibly, and we're managing our investors' money really well. You can see here our prototype. This is our engineering prototype. A lot of our investors that have spent time in this were just blown away by how good they felt inside their body when they were in it. And a lot of them who had made small investments came to our prototype and they 5x or 10x the size of their investment after actually experiencing what it's like to be in a Geoship. The Geoships go together in a very modular fashion. We're going to be making 3 different size domes. We're first going to market with 36-foot domes, and then we'll start engineering and working on the other domes. And we still haven't announced the delivery dates on the other form factors. And they'll be able to be configured in multiple ways to create lots of different floor plans. So it's really exciting to be able to create a limited number of parts, but utilize those limited number of parts to make lots of different opportunities for customers to create their own vision for what their floor plan and their beautiful home could be like. Our plan is fairly simple. It's to start here in Northern California. We're going to be installing the first domes here, so we continue to learn and iterate on our product until we get our product like just right. And we have some early investors that are taking the initial orders and they know they're buying like an early unit and they know we're going to keep making it better and they don't care and they're supportive of what we're doing and what we're creating in the world. And then as soon as we get the product to the point where it's like, okay, this is ready for prime time, we start delivering to our clients all over the country that are creating these exotic hotels and retreat centers. The reason for that is that puts like butts in seats. It gets people in the experience of being in a Geoship and feeling what it's like to be inside one, and it's going to keep increasing the demand. And in parallel in doing that, we're building relationships with developers. So we've already got a handful of developers that we're in active conversations with, and several of them who've actually invested in our company and are excited to start building communities with Geoships. So these are healthy communities where its inhabitants will be more connected to nature and more connected to their neighbor. They're going to be a rethinking the way we can build communities and how those neighborhoods are going to make people feel to be in them. And then eventually we get into network communities. And this is like a little bit more of a long-term vision, but it's important to communicate it because if you can radically reduce the cost of building homes, how would you serve customers in a way that would just light them up? Light them up. You would make home ownership the most easy thing it's ever been. You'd allow people to buy a home in virtual reality, design it, experiment with it, have it set up exactly how they want it. You'd be able to rapidly deliver it to them. And then if they wanted to move to a different city, you would let them just transfer their equity to a new home in a new community, and their payment would just adjust based on the price differential, and you take care of everything else. You design a system where they don't have to think about their insurance, where they don't have to think about their electricity. They don't have to think about when their dishwasher breaks, who's going to come and repair it. They would just click a button on an app and it would be taken care of. And that's what we mean when we talk about network communities. We're talking about Geoship brand is a platform where people can live and move within a network of communities that are going to serve their needs while building equity in their home and in the platform. And that's a really revolutionary concept, and we'll probably start working on that in like 5 or so years once we start getting to scale. A lot of what we're doing here is key ingredients for a movement. I mean, I think a lot of you people who are on this call, you get it because you're here, but have people tell me all the time, just like how excited they were when they first discovered Geoship, how passionate they are. And it's people like me, like I was a customer and now I'm here running the company. Like we have so many fantastic, incredible, amazing people that when they discover Geoship, they just want to help. They just show up. They just start contributing. And why is that? It's like we have a groundbreaking product. We're also housing as climate activism. We stand for community and connection in a world that's really devoid of this, that really needs this, where people are really desiring to be more connected to their neighbors. And we offer people thriving health. I can't tell you how many customers have placed reservations that have suffered from some kind of chronic disease where they're now so sensitive to chemicals or mold that they cannot be in a house that like is traditionally built. They might be moving into an old house and moving to like Nevada where it's super dry, where there's not a lot of mold. And people are actually, I'm hearing stories of people who move states just because of they need to live in a house that's not going to hurt them. And we're going to solve that issue. So, when you're investing in a company, you're investing in more than just a vision, more than a concept, more than the fact that we're, going to disrupt a multi-trillion dollar market. You're investing in the team that's going to make that happen. And I can confidently tell you, we have one of the most incredible teams of incredibly passionate and talented people assembled to take Geoship to where it's destined to be. Morgan and Boss, our founders, just brilliant engineers and designers that like they set the foundation. And when I entered the team, I was really the first person on the team with like significant business experience that knew how to raise the capital, do all the things to really get the company off the ground and build the team. The first person we brought in, thanks to John Mark, who's on the call, was Dolly Singh. She was the head of talent at SpaceX from 200 to 5,000 people. She was one of the very few people mentioned in Elon's biography as having a really significant impact on SpaceX, along with so many talented and brilliant engineers and rocket scientists. And just, one of the top 0.1% recruiters in the world who've devoted her life to only supporting companies that are going to leave this world better in a climate situation we're in for their children and grandchildren. So like she's just crazy passionate, been amazing. The first person she brought on was Craig Darian, who's a championship winning NASCAR engineer. And then he goes and gets recruited by Tesla and was a leader in the vehicle dynamics and the chassis development for the Model X and the Model 3. Lasted 7 years of Tesla during the most critical time on that company when they were going through production hell. And you don't last 7 years working for Elon unless you are just an absolute like certifiable, like incredible engineer. And Craig has just been absolutely amazing in what he's brought to the table for us. Paul worked with Craig at Tesla. He's our head of product engineering. He also worked at Apple on a secret project we're not allowed to talk about. He also was one of the key people at Zoox prior getting acquired by Amazon. I think he was one of the top 20 people in that company out of like thousands of employees. Um, Sarah, our head of crowdfunding, she raised over $100 million from Aptera through equity crowdfunding. And why does that matter to us? That matters to us because we don't want to raise money through the traditional avenues of only going to VCs that are going to write big checks, and then they're going to steer this company based on the profit incentives of their LPs. We want people with the values and the drive and the passion for this company to make this investment and to really like succeed off that investment. It's something where it would be much easier for us to raise money from a lot of big institutions. But we've made the choice because it's connected with our values to allow retail investors and take a stand for retail investors to be a part of this platform. And then Andrew James, sometimes I save the best for last. Andrew is just phenomenal. He's our head of manufacturing. This was the guy that built the tent in the Tesla parking lot that took them out of production hell. Like he wasn't even a manufacturing engineer. He was previously working on the dash components and the like with that team on the Model 3 that built that really beautiful, amazing systems in the dash. And then Elon put him in as a leader in the General Assembly Line 3 that got him out of production hell, and then that got replicated throughout Tesla. So all-star amazing people. And there's a dozen people working for us that are not on this slide that are insanely amazing as well. We just don't have time to talk about everyone. And we're attracting the people that have the talent and have the drive and the passion and their values aligned with what we're creating in the world to bring this to life. And it's so exciting. Lastly, this business has a financial profile that is it's unbelievable. We are able to make amazing margins with this product. We're talking 30, 50% plus margins on a product by offering it at a much lower price, which is what that's going to do. It's going to enable us to scale through our own profits. So we're not going to need to keep raising money like a lot of companies that they raise an A round and then a B round and then a C round and then a D round. We believe that after our A round, we'll be generating enough profits to start to scale through our own internal profits. It's also a very low CapEx business, so it doesn't take a lot of money to build out a Geoship factory. In fact, like a $30 to $50 million factory will generate hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue for us. And you compare this to other companies, manufacturing companies like Tesla, where they have to spend billions of dollars on a factory to make billions of dollars in revenue. And this allows us to leverage our capital more effectively. And then we just have an insanely huge market. Like we're forecast to get only 0.03% of the US market by 2029. And that already gets us $250 million in revenue. It's such a huge market. There are so many people that buy homes, and that market is that big where 70% of people under 35 can't even afford one. So imagine what happens to that market when we lower the price and we open up the market to more people that can now, instead of paying rent, they could become homeowners. We're going to expand the size of this market. So amazing opportunity all around. It's just phenomenal. And right now we're at our C2 investment round. So we raised $1.5 million in our pre-seed. There's some people maybe on this call that participated in that round. That was at a $9 million valuation. If you invested in that round, we're almost 5 times the valuation now for everything that we've achieved since then. We did a seed round at a $33 million valuation. That got us through all the engineering of our go-to-market product. We crossed 100 million in pre-orders with that round, and we hired our go-to-market team. And now we're raising our $5 million C2 round, and this round is almost closed. What it's going to do is going to enable us to get to pilot production, deliver our first 10 homes to customers. We believe we're going to be able to increase pre-orders to $500 million by the end of this round. We could potentially achieve profitability. Like I think there's a really good chance that by the end of next year, we could be on track to deliver enough homes a month where the following quarter, we could be profitable. Not that we would want to be profitable. We would probably want to grow faster and keep raising money and expanding. But the fact that we could be at default to live, that's what we call it, doesn't put us at the whims of institutional investors. It just takes the risk out of this company. So we have a couple $1 million left in this round, and we have some big investors looking at that. So now is the time to get in. As soon as one of those bigger investors close, we'll probably be closing this round out on WeFunder. And then, there will be more opportunities to invest in the future, but we'd love for you to invest now. If our Series A round is priced at, let's say, $200 million, that's like a 5x plus increase in valuation. So that means if you invest now versus in a couple years from now, you might get 5 times more when we eventually go public and you're able to sell the stock in the company. So that's our presentation. There's a QR code here. You can go use that QR code to get to our WeFunder page to invest. And lastly, I should mention that there's all kinds of perks. So if you're here because you love the product and you also want to invest, well, amazing, you can invest, and that investment also gets you a discount on the product. So we're going to reward our investors by offering discounts on the product, and we want all the first buyers of this product to be investors in the company. We want to be tied to each other's success, and to really impact the world together in really meaningful ways. So grateful for your time today, and I'll open up the floor for questions.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Russo, and I'm the head of marketing. Thank you so much for all of your conversation in the chat and for all of the questions that you sent through the Q&A. We have a ton of them. So what I have done behind the scenes is pulled a few that looked like common themes and aggregated them so that Micha and Morgan can answer them live. So let's start off with a question. Micha, can you speak a little bit more towards our reservation pipeline? Specifically, the audience would like to know how we're using the reservation process to essentially plan out our delivery queue, and how we'll be considering that when we're deciding where to scale to new areas.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, we are going to be delivering to investors first, and people who invest $236,000 plus get access to a Founders Edition Dome. It's basically a thank you for putting that level of capital into the company. And you also get a $99,000 discount on the new dome. So the Founders Edition will be the very first ones we're selling in any given market. They'll only be available to people that invested that amount, and they're going to have some extra options and a nice plaque and just something to really represent and thank that investor for that investment. Once we've delivered Founders Edition domes in your market, we're going to go to our priority delivery of our Wave 1. And for people who invest $99,000 and up, you're guaranteed one of the first 10 units in your region in Wave 1. And I believe some regions are getting close to 10 units already reserved in that region, but we haven't surpassed 10 yet in any region. But we have that opportunity to make sure you're one of the first people in your region to get a Geoship. And then with that $90,000 investment comes also a $33,000 discount with your dome. And then once we've delivered those, there are Founders Editions and our priority deliveries in a specific market. Then we open it up to other Wave 1 reservation holders. And we're in Wave 1 right now. So if you go reserve on our website at the moment, you are in the Wave 1 of reservation holders. And then beyond the 99,000, we prioritize that delivery based on when you put in your reservation, if you're an investor or not, and how much you've invested. So we basically use all that data to create a delivery queue that incentivizes people for being investors, and it also incentivizes people for being early and for helping and supporting. There's also referral programs. So if you refer other people into reservations, that can also push you up into some of these tiers without having to invest more money. Let's say you don't have money to invest, but you have a big following on Twitter or YouTube, and you want to help promote us, you can do that. And then our referral program, which I may be prematurely launching here because I don't know if it's actually launched yet, but it's launching soon. It's coming really soon, and you'll get a link. And just by driving people to reserve a Geoship, you could actually get into the priority delivery. And if you get over 80 installs from your referral group, we'll actually give you a free Geoship. And at the same time, we're going to give a free Geoship to somebody in need, a family in need who really can't afford a home. And that, so we're going to be doing that in your name for people that are going to really step up and be driving a lot of referrals over to us. So again, just core to our ethos, we want you guys to be rewarded for being part of this movement, for being part of this community. And your participation in the movement is what is going to allow you to get your Geoships faster.
Fantastic. Thank you, Misha. Okay, our next question is what needs to happen for Geoship to reach break even in cash flow? And how can the audience be thinking more about the potential for ROI?
Yeah, great question. So we're currently at about a $300,000 a month burn rate. And for those of you who don't know what burn rate means, it basically means like that's just how much money it takes us to operate the company right now. It's paying for all the employees that are working on R&D and building the product and the staff at the company that aren't directly manufacturing the product. And that's $300,000 a month. And then the domes, our founder edition domes, are in the $300,000 range. And we're making about $100,000 per founder edition dome installed, is what our forecast is. So basically, when we cross 3 domes a month of delivery, we've paid for our OpEx, we've paid for our burn rate, and then we'll be at cash flow break even. And anything over 3 domes a month, we start to become profitable. Now, it's possible our burn rate grows a little bit between now and then, and maybe we have to hit 4 to get profitable, and we're break even somewhere between 3 and 4. But because of the nature of this business, it's very possible for us to get there very early as a company, which is pretty incredible.
Awesome. I really liked this question because I think it's a good one to double click on. So aside from some of the 3D printed competitors, do we feel that there's any other competitors in the space that are approaching the problems in the housing industry similar to how Geoship is doing?
The short answer is no. So there are other companies doing factory-built houses as a panelized product, and we appreciate them. They paved the way and they created that innovation there. And there are other companies doing domes, and we're the only company that we know of that's building domes as a factory-built product. So that's a key distinction that's driving us to be able to achieve what we're achieving here. And I don't know of any other company that's doing that.
Awesome. So it looks like we're wanting to get some clarity on how assembly works. So is it done by our team? Will it be available for DIY or for local contractors? Can we double click on that?
Our vision is to eventually allow for DIY assembly. Initially, we're going with our own teams. And this is also, we've got to keep improving the assembly process, and this is going to take some work. We still have work to do in improving that assembly process. So until we get the assembly process like very easily repeatable and just refined to the point where we can give it to a homeowner or DIY to do it without running into any challenges, we are going to be doing it with our own teams, and we are going to be scaling with our own teams. We don't want people to have to install their own domes or have to find a contractor that needs to go get trained or what have you. So delivery will be available, but it is our goal and vision to be able to allow people to install their own homes. We don't know when that's going to be possible, and we'll probably know more in like 6 to 9 months once we start delivering.
Great, thank you. This question is about the materials. So what is being asked is, where do the raw materials come from? Are they mined, extracted, refined? Are they easy to find in certain areas, and how available are they for sourcing?
Yeah, the main materials are sourced from Idaho and Nevada. And ultimately there's also reclamation technologies that are being scaled in multiple locations to be able to reclaim the raw minerals from saltwater, so seawater desalination, as well as wastewater treatment plants. And the chemistry is pretty adaptable to different locations. So chemically bonded ceramics there's a lot, several substitutes for each of the minerals. So just depending on what's available locally, but what we're sourcing here now in California is basically from Idaho and Nevada.
Yeah, and just one thing to say, our vision is to get to a closed loop ecosystem where we're taking existing minerals, we're not mining them from the earth, we're taking existing minerals that are being recycled, and we're building houses from them. So that's our goal. We need to invest more in R&D to realize that goal. We know it's possible, but when we're going to market, we're just buying the raw minerals off the commodities market.
Another question relating to the bioceramic materials. So the question is, if bioceramic is so much better than concrete, why isn't it replacing concrete in other industries? And is that a market Geoship might explore?
So I think the short answer is it is starting to replace concrete in industries. I've heard and read about companies that are using this to repair roads, that are using it to repair bridges and skyscrapers. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Morgan, but
Yeah, and that's not really concrete replacement, right? That's like concrete repair. And it won't replace concrete because it's a lot more expensive than concrete. And they use a lot of concrete on typical, applications. But it's a great repair material and it's used for a lot of other things. Like we're not just replacing concrete, we're replacing the wood and the adhesives and the paint and the roofing and all the other materials used to build a house.
I mean, that's an important point there, and I didn't address that in the presentation. I usually do, but like a traditional built house, like there's the wood frames, there's the insulation, the vapor barrier, the exterior siding, and then you paint the exterior siding, and then you put on the drywall, and you seam the drywall, you mud it, you sand it, you patch it, you texture it, you paint it, and then you put on a roof on the house, and there's a roof, and there's a gutter system, there's an attic, there's all these systems that use all these different materials. Our bioceramic composite replaces all of that. And it does so at a fraction of the cost of all those materials to build a normal house. So that's really a key driver of our innovation and our ability to build houses for less. And it is more expensive than concrete, like on a per pound basis, but for the strength profiles we're able to achieve as a building material, under needing the structural capability, it is phenomenally more performative and less expensive than other materials there.
Great. Okay, we're going to shift into some product questions. So, would like to hear a little bit more about how Geoship is resilient to the climate disasters, specifically floods, and how it is watertight.
So in terms of climate disasters, the geometry lends itself well for hurricane resilience and like tornadoes, earthquakes, heavy winds. It's also performs really well under great snow loads because it distributes stress. It is a watertight structure, and it's also an airtight structure. And in a flood, you're not going to have a waterproof house that, like, water is going to find its way in under doors and different places, and you will have a house that floods in a flood. The difference between Geoship and a traditional house in a flood is that the Geoship will dry out, and you could still inhabit it. You don't have to tear down your house and rebuild it or go under huge repairs. You just have to clean all the panels and get going again.
Great. Can we speak a little bit to the insulation materials we use and how thick the walls are?
So we're going to have Geoships available in various sizes and energy efficiency, depending on the market, depending on your needs and desires. But it'll be somewhere between a 6-inch and an 11-inch wall cavity. We're going to market with a rock wool insulation. So we're doing that just to reduce the complexity of getting approvals for all the various new things we're doing in the world. But we're planning on very shortly after getting to market, getting approval for our GeoRock insulation technology, which is an aerated version of the GeoRock that serves as an amazing insulation, and it fills the entire wall cavity with an insulative material that also bonds to the structure and turns it into a monolithic structure. So we do believe our GeoRock is going to be an incredible insulation for these homes, and we're working on that right now and hope to release that shortly after we start delivering.
Okay, we only have time for one more question, and this one's going to be a little bit open-ended, but I think it's perfect for our close. Why should someone invest now?
I mean, if you believe in what we're doing, there's no better time to invest. This round is going to close soon, and we're just keep making progress, and it's going to be more and more expensive to invest in the company. The valuation will keep increasing. And you should invest because you believe in our mission, because you want to see companies that are creating the new world. You want to see companies that are creating a better world where people have access to housing, where that housing is healthy, where people are more connected to their neighbors and their communities. And you believe in our product and that we're going to be doing that. So I personally have not seen a better investment in my life. And I was an early investor in Tesla and an early investor in some other great companies. And I just feel like the size of this industry and what we can accomplish here is just, it's going to be phenomenal. And there's not a better time to invest. All that being said, we're still a startup. So I've actually talked quite a few investors out of not investing more than they can afford to lose, because you don't want to invest more than you can afford to lose in a startup. but whatever you can't afford to lose, it's a great investment. And I think we've already taken out a significant amount of risk since the last investment round. And it's a really great value right now to get on, participate in Geoship. Cool. So that was the last close, which kind of asked what I was probably going to say in my close anyways, which is just why you should invest today. So, I think the other thing to invest in is just the real intention and integrity of this team. And I will share that I wasn't really planning on doing this again in my career. I was working on building a regenerative village for my kids to live in and supporting my wife and building her school. And I was mentoring entrepreneurs and making investments. And why I'm here is because of the integrity and passion and heart of the founders of this company. And they're creating something that's really beautiful and they stand for something in the world. And they're not doing this to make money. They're doing this because they want to see this world evolve. And they're doing it for the right reasons. And I believe that they're going to keep making the right decisions for us to have the most impact that we could possibly have on humanity. And that's why I'm here every single day, is because I believe in them and I believe in their heart. I believe in their integrity. And I think as a team of people, we're going to do some really incredible things with this company, and you should be a part of it. So go over to WeFunder right now, www.wefunder.com/geoship. Scan the QR code, join our movement. We're excited to have you. I get just as excited over a $500 investor as a $50,000 investor. And everyone who gets added to this movement is such a piece of what we're doing. And we appreciate it. We're grateful for it, and we will steward it to the best of our capacity.